So, Michelle, I'm so glad to have the opportunity to talk with you today. I'm very grateful that I myself have had the opportunity to be in one of your teaching spaces, and it was phenomenal. It
Thank you so
changed my
much.
life, and I truly mean that. So I am so glad to have this conversation with you today. Michelle, let's get right into a little bit of information so we can let our viewers know a little bit more about you. So tell us a little bit about yourself. I know I read your bio, but there's more to Michelle than just that. There was a beginning before therapy. So tell us a little bit about yourself and also why you chose the therapeutic specialty of religious trauma.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for giving me this opportunity today. I'm so glad our paths crossed. Yes, working in therapy, being a mental health counselor, is a second career for me. My first career out of college was actually in vocational ministry. I worked in evangelical Christian spaces, um, particularly with college students. I had my own experience of spiritual abuse and religious trauma within those spaces. And so when I exited that career, I knew that I wanted to continue helping people, supporting people, that I wanted to get further training in how to do that in a more boundaried way, and in a way that just provided more professional training and abilities to support people with various things going on. So that is when I went to grad school for counseling. Did not intend to work in the niche or work with survivors of religious trauma. At that time, my own experience was still a little too close. I was very early on my own healing journey. And actually, I think I had been in practice about 4 or 5 years. I had someone who came in with totally different concerns, and as we were working together, some stuff came up from their religious experiences and how that was impacting them. And I realized I feel like I can support this person. And this person was like, "You speak this language. I don't have
Mm.
to explain all of the inner workings of how this particular group worked." This person ended up referring some other folks to me, and it just kind of became the niche that found me. That's how I refer to it sometimes. Because like I said, it was not my intent to specialize in this area. But I've also found that there are many folks who have experienced spiritual abuse, have experienced harm in religious spaces, and are looking for support from someone that has the clinical skills and training, but also understands how important and central that religious or spiritual piece can be to your life, and how hard it can be to have a shift in those beliefs.
Yeah, absolutely. So when we get into talking about spiritual abuse and religious trauma, let's give a clear definition for it because in some spaces there's a difference in the definition.
Mhm.
So go ahead and please share with us a clear definition by defining religious trauma and religious trauma syndrome. And then also, how does this present in a person's life?
Yeah. So the definition that I frequently use for religious trauma is that it is the physical, emotional, or psychological response to religious beliefs, practices, or structures that overwhelm an individual's ability to cope and to return to a sense of safety. So when things are happening related to religious beliefs or practices or the structure of an organization or church itself that are overwhelming to an individual, to their nervous system, to their ability to have emotional safety, that person can experience religious trauma. Now, religious trauma syndrome, that is a specific phrasing that Marlene Wynell came up with, and it describes the simultaneous symptoms or characteristics that a person may experience related to harmful experiences that they had within religion, and also to the secondary impact of leaving that religious group. So that can impact various areas of life from the cognitive or the way a person thinks to their emotional experience to their socialization, their relationships, to even some physical impacts that they may have as a result of harm that they experienced both within the group and in the impact of leaving the group.
Now, Michelle, why is it that some people get this horrible condition which causes so many complex issues? We said harm, we've said psychological functions and different things, it's nervous systems being affected here. And why is it that other people seem to be immune? Because that's the big thing. We went to the same church. Or for me, we went to the same Kingdom Hall. We experienced the same thing. What are you talking about? So could you speak to that?
Yes. So this, we're really understanding more that trauma in general, and when we're thinking specifically about religious trauma, has to do with a person's individual nervous system. So, how a person's nervous system just biologically is wired to respond to events is going to vary. So, for some folks, a certain event is going to be very difficult. It's going to weigh down on their nervous system. They're not going to be able to shake it off. They're going to continue to think about it. It's going to show up in lots of ways in their life. Um, this is also impacted by, do they have lots of people around them that are able to help them feel safe? If you don't, which often with religious trauma, you may be in a situation where everyone around you has the same belief system. So the things that you're experiencing as harmful, all of the people around you also hold those beliefs or participate in those practices or are part of those structures. So you're not able to find safety in a community somewhere. Whereas for another person, their nervous system may not experience those things as traumatic. That may not register with their nervous system at all, or it may be on the level of like, that feels a little off, but they're just able to move on. They may also have lots of connections outside of the church or the group. And so they're able to find safety in relationships in other places. And so that's why some folks can be really impacted by an experience, and other folks, it doesn't register in the same way. They don't have that same experience of trauma.
So, Michelle, another wonderful thing about you is that you have programs that you offer to both professionals and faith-based leaders. Could you please just tell us more about those programs and how can someone sign up?
Sure. So for other mental health professionals, we're all required to get continuing education hours so that we continue learning. So I offer courses that are approved by NBCC, which is the National Board of Certified Counselors. So it covers counselors all over the U.S. That are approved for continuing education credits on topics related to religious trauma. Everything from a religious trauma one-on-one 101 type of training, so an introductory training, to trainings that are more in depth, to things that are very specific, so neurodivergence and religious trauma, group therapy and religious trauma. So any mental health professionals that are interested in registering for those, there's information about that on my website, which is just myname.com, so michellefmoseley.com. There's a continuing education tab where mental health professionals can learn about those courses. I have quite a few coming up throughout the rest of 2025, and I offer them all virtually. So they are available to anyone, anywhere who has access to internet. Um, and then my trainings, seminars that I offer for faith-based leaders are really based on understanding trauma in general, as well as religious trauma, understanding mental health, and understanding the intersection of faith and mental health, being aware of resources that are available, how to notice when the folks that they're working with or they are serving in their ministry context may need something more, may need to talk with a therapist or some more professional type of mental health support than what they as a faith leader are able to provide, and also how to have a trauma-informed or a trauma-sensitive ministry or religious faith-based space. And the information about that is on my website as well.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you so much for doing what you do. Doing what you do. Like I said, I've had the privilege of being in one of your teaching spaces, and it's just phenomenal. So definitely, definitely thank you for that.